Many of you subscribing to the Rebel.media are likely doing so because you're understandably fed up with getting your information from the mainstream media. So how do you like it that as a result of the most recent federal budget, some of your hard-earned tax dollars are going toward propping up those very media outlets that you've long since abandoned? I don't know what's sadder, the fact that $50 million in federal taxpayer money is being invested to support local journalism, or the fact that the recipients of that money are acting like ingrates, or the fact that those press barons pressing for government cash apparently can't see the inherent conflict of interest in doing so. Well, let's start with point number one, that $50 million bailout. Look, if readers and advertisers aren't buying what local papers are selling, why should tax dollars be used to prop up this industry, especially since more than $1 billion of our dollars already go towards supporting the CBC on an annual basis? The government has no business using our money to prop up losing propositions, be it Bombardier or Torstar Corporation. And as always, philosophically, it comes down to this. How does a government pick and choose the winners and losers? When Sears Canada went belly up earlier this year, Ottawa didn't come charging to the rescue. While I really feel bad for the Sears employees who lost their jobs, consumers had chosen to speak with their wallets, and for whatever reason, Sears Canada was no longer relevant or profitable, and the only way a free market economy works is by the rules of Darwinism. As for point number two, you'd think those receiving a handout would be grateful. Not so. Here's what John Hines, the CEO of News Media Canada, had to say about the bailout. Quote, "That's a bit of a band-aid solution. It's not what we would have hoped for. $10 million over 5 years really isn't going to address the problem. That's really the cost of running one newsroom of a mid-sized daily newspaper in Canada," end quote. Oh, really, Mr. Hines? Then how about raising revenue, I don't know, the old-fashioned way by selling subscriptions and attracting advertisers? Or perhaps figuring out how to monetize content on the internet as opposed to clamoring for corporate welfare via the taxpayer? What makes you think your company is owed anything anyways? And then there was Paul Godfrey, the CEO of Post Media Network Canada Corp. He had this to say, quote, "This is most disappointing and somewhat insulting when you consider all the time we've wasted making appearances in front of commissions they've set up," end quote. Oh, come on, poor darling. All that time spent singing for your supper in front of commissions, and all you and your colleagues have to show for it is that paltry $50 million. Man, don't these bureaucrats know how valuable Mr. Godfrey's time is? Finally, point number three, in their longing for a government bailout, have any of these media company executives bothered to consider the inherent conflict of interest when it comes to receiving money from the government while at the same time covering issues and people directly related to the federal government? Don't know about you, but I've never looked upon biting the hand that feeds as a prudent business decision. What might be good for a newspaper's bottom line might just prove to be toxic to journalistic integrity, or is perhaps that's what's for sale these days as well? For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, if you heard the news, the Rebel has a brand new app. Please download the Rebel app and take the Rebel with you wherever you go.